Abdul Mumin died. Umar was with him and managed to keep his death a secret till Yusuf arrived in the capital, and since he was the first to arrive in the capital, he was able to secure power. Muhammad was angry, but he couldn't do much. Yusuf had just recently defeated Ibn Mardanish in Granada and hence was quite popular at the time. 3 other sons of Abdul Mumin objected to Yusuf being installed against their father's instructions. One of them mysteriously died and the other 2 got a visit from some people who managed to convince them to swear loyalty to Yusuf. Yusuf was around 25 years of age and had been a mostly popular governor of Seville for a few years. He wasn't much of a military man though, but he was an intellectual and liked to surround himself with like-minded people and collected books. Some famous figures like Ibn Rushd or Averroes and Ibn Tufail were often found in his presence. A private collector in Seville writes, "The commander of the faithful came to hear of my collections. So he sent Kafur the eunuch with a selected group of slaves to my house when I was in the government offices and knew nothing about it. He ordered him not to frighten anyone in the house and not to take anything except books, and then threatened him and those with him with the direst punishments if the people of the house lost so much as a pin. I was told about this while I was at the office, and I thought he had intended to confiscate all my property. So almost out of my mind, I rode to my house. There was the eunuch Kafur standing at the door, and the books were being brought out to him. When he saw that I was obviously terrified, he said, 'Don't panic,' and added that the Caliph sent me his greetings and had mentioned me favorably, and he carried on smiling until I relaxed. Then he said, 'Ask the members of your household if anyone has frightened them or if they are missing anything.' And they replied, 'Nobody has frightened us and nothing is missing.' Abul Kafur came and asked our permission 3 times and said that we are free to go. Then he himself went into the library store and ordered that the books be removed. When I heard this, all my anxiety disappeared." However, collecting books was not the most important thing at the time. Before Abdul Mumin died, he had assembled an army to invade Christian Spain. Yusuf was itching to pull the trigger on that. Umar landed in Al-Andalus with the ambition to put an end to Ibn Mardanish and to secure the loyalties of his brothers. Various brothers of his came to him to swear loyalty to the new caliph. Afterwards, they left for Cordoba, from where they went on to march against Ibn Mardanish. Around 60 kilometers from Cordoba was an outpost of Ibn Mardanish, who used it to harass the city. This outpost was attacked and quickly subdued. The countryside was ravaged. The army acted like an invading force and looted everything they could. The army apparently didn't have many supplies for the campaign and were relying on loot to pay the soldiers. The Almohad army marched on Murcia to put an end to Ibn Mardanish. However, he met them first. Battle ensued and resulted in a victory for Almohad. Ibn Mardanish fell back to the walled city of Murcia. Almohad tried to take the city but failed and eventually retired. In Almohad propaganda, however, this was painted as a great victory. Umar returned soon to the Maghrib. At the same time as this, in the west, Almohad were facing another crisis. A Portuguese man named Giraldo Sampaor was attacking Almohad cities. He even managed to take cities like Evora and Carceres. However, he was just a freelancer and sold those cities to whoever would buy them. In May 1169 CE, he even attacked Badajoz. He forced Almohad garrison there to take shelter in the Alcazaba and asked the king of Portugal for help. Yusuf dispatched an army to secure Badajoz. However, this time Christian rivalries helped the Muslims. The king of Leon did not want to see Badajoz in the hands of the king of Portugal and helped the Muslims to fend off this attack. In summer of 1169 CE, Ibn Mardanish was seriously weakened when his father-in-law Ibn Hamushk joined the Almohad. The reason behind this was that Ibn Mardanish had divorced his daughter, and so he feared that Ibn Mardanish might attack him. He helped the Almohad plan out an attack on Ibn Mardanish, but it never came to fruition as Ibn Mardanish died in 1172 CE. His small state crumbled right after. Ibn Mardanish had great relations with the Christians, who referred to him as Rex Lupus in their books, meaning the Wolf King. After him, his son swore loyalty to the Almohad. In 1172 CE, the Caliph himself arrived in Al-Andalus to lead a jihad against the Christians. His army, 20,000 men total, was made up of Arabs and Berbers. He was supported by the Andalusians as well. He was told that Hude would be a good target. However, it was a small town, and when it was attacked, the Christian troops fell to the citadel. Abul Ala ibn Azub, an Andalusi commander who played a leading role in the attack, recalls that he had a chance to take the city and end it quickly. However, the Caliph did not respond to his requests of reinforcement. A siege was started. Siege engines were built. The Arabs and the Almohad were having trouble working together. The Caliph showed little to no seriousness in the matter. While it was in the middle of summer, the weather turned against him. On top of everything, supply lines were disrupted, and news reached Yusuf that Alfonso VIII was planning an attack. The Caliph lost his nerve. The siege had to be abandoned. While they were planning to move out, their rear was attacked by the garrison and the sick and the weak were slaughtered. Let me repeat this. The Caliph, on his jihad, laid siege with more than 20,000 men to an insignificant little town and failed to take it. However, this was only the beginning of his odyssey. They then headed east. They eventually made their camp on the river Yukar. However, news reached again that Alfonso was coming. The Caliph thought it best to move across the river, as to put a river between him and Alfonso in case fighting breaks out. The crossing of the river was a mess. There was panic and a lack of discipline led to casualties. Yusuf held a council with his commanders. The Almohad and Andalusis agreed to fight, but the Arabs, perhaps out of fear, refused and said that they need an open field for battle. The next morning, the scouts reported that the Christian army had left. The Caliph decided to go to Murcia to visit Ibn Mardanish's kingdom and consolidate his control there. However, he did not take into account the long mountainous road and his increasingly shrinking supplies. The main body of the march got separated from the baggage train, which was slow due to all the climb. Men and animals started to die of hunger. To boost morale, Yusuf paid some of the troops, but it didn't work that much. Finally, they reached Bunal, on the edge of Valencia. Here the army began to disperse. The Andalusis started to go home. When he finally arrived in Murcia, he bestowed great honor upon the Banu Mardanish. Leaders from all across Al-Andalus and Morocco came pouring in to congratulate him on a successful campaign, because that's the power of propaganda. Over the next decade or so, Al-Andalus was vulnerable. The Caliph left it and the Christians started raiding.